16. The portal's energy rippled in contrast to the medium light of the great room as a scene with stone pedestals materialized on the other side. A robed figure wearing a silver circlet that disappeared into glossy jet-black hair stepped into view. When she turned to face the portal, a smile tugged at the corners of my mouth. She matched my expression, and it was like the world glowed around the first companion I'd gained in Enora. I stepped through the portal and onto the stone pedestal on the other side. When Roshan threw her arms out, I stepped into her embrace. "My beloved Gemini." She squeezed so tightly I couldn't help but notice how her soft tone and warm greeting contrasted the stoic, firm, and sometimes downright verbally harsh woman of before. I grasped her shoulders, held her at arm's length, then gazed into her oversized sienna irises. "It seems your new gig agrees with you." She cupped one side of my face. "Indeed. My pews are filled with parishioners from town 3 times per week, and so many of the students come for counseling. It fills the well of my soul." "I'm so glad, but I'd be lying if I didn't say I missed having you around." She nodded, then looked over my shoulder. "Hello, Amelia." She stepped around me to embrace my elven bodyguard, then greeted the other familiar faces in turn. "Welcome, Sharni. Good to see you again, Mashini." Then she thrust out a hand toward the umber-skinned westerner. "We have not met. I am Roshan, Clan Fortuan." "Priestess?" Sumi bowed. "I am Sumi Wilsey, bard and purveyor of goods." "Ah, a vendor?" I shook my head. "A smuggler, and former acolyte to the Light Temple in Brusaria." Roshan tilted her head to one side. "A strange combination. Is the temple grand?" Sumi nodded enthusiastically. "It is. Quite huge." "And you left the faith?" "Not at all. I just found that I wasn't cut out for counseling to the wicked." Roshan laughed, a full-throated sound rarely heard before. "It's not for everyone, after all." The priestess stepped toward the door, but stopped with her hand gripping the knob. "Do you have mounts?" She gestured toward a larger pedestal. I eyed the door she stood before. "I don't think they'll fit through that." Roshan pursed her lips, then pulled back a roll of mana-infused paper that covered the stone walls to keep heat inside. Beyond it stood a pair of double doors. "Added after the king's men invaded Warrington so elves could bring their animals." "Awesome. But there's no point in dragging the mounts around town. We'll come back." "Fair point. Come, all of you. I'll show you my little chapel." We left the room with stone pedals used for opening portals all over the east and stepped into a cold drizzle that pricked my face, but not in an unpleasant way. The sprawl of buildings forming the academy filled the scene on our left. We followed a stony walkway and passed a couple statues of men and women holding scrolls, wielding shields, and the like. A man with a curtain of straight white hair stepped out from behind one of them when we reached the crosswalk leading to the academy doors. "Ah," Roshan said. "Master Renard, good timing." She flashed glances at each of us. "Have you already met?" I shook my head, then stepped forward to grasp his wrist in a traditional elven handshake. "I haven't had the pleasure, but I've heard of you. A cousin of the prince's, yes?" Master Renard bowed. "Yes, Shenhua. The honor is mine. Please call me Joran, and I hope the rest of your blessed body will do the same." Roshan turned her attention to the rest of my team. "Master Renard teaches constitutional development here at the academy. He tolerates the bickering of students forced to run laps around the field and train with wooden target dummies." "It's not such a hassle as you describe, Master Roshan. Young, hungry minds must also be of sound body and spirit, so your role and mine are just as vital to them as their other masters." "Agreed." She set a hand on his shoulder, then turned him to face the rest of my team. After introductions, she bowed to Renard. "We're on our way to the temple where Gemini might tell me why he's come to see me." "Does the goddess's chosen spirit need a reason, priestess?" Roshan blushed and grabbed my hand. "No, not at all, especially since he also calls me family." I was so used to the old Roshan that I began wondering if she was putting on airs, but I shoved the thought away. Joran continued his trek down the walkway from north to south toward the main gate, leading to Warrington while we continued west toward the chapel. Roshan led us through the rear entrance, across a small back room, then through a side door into the chapel proper. She gestured to the wide stone structure on the platform fronting the pews. "We've just upgraded the altar.
I quarried much stone, but the goddess granted me a few skill points. If any of you care for a buff, you need only kneel.
Amelia, Tsumi, and Mashini circled, then knelt before the altar. Roshan cast a wary gaze Charney's way. Charney showed her a palm, then shook it side to side. None for me, thanks. We upgraded our foundation this morning, and I got a nice buff to my charisma. Something tells me I'm going to need it. Roshan squinted in suspicion, stepped onto the platform, then circled to the opposite side of the altar from the kneeling three. She raised her hands, closed her eyes, then her lips moved without making sound. A white flash surrounded each worshipper, then flattened to gold before dissipating into motes that rose toward the arched ceiling. That bit of pressing business done, she turned back to me.
And why would the goblin need a charisma buff, Gemini? Something to do with why you wanted to visit today while your mentor and friend prepares a siege of the largest city in the east?
Busted.
Has it something to do with Priya's absence? Why Dicini didn't accompany you to grace me with her presence?
I thought I detected a hint of bitterness seeping through. I asked the rest of the party to rest on the pews while I led Roshan into the tiny back room of the chapel. With the door closed tight behind us, I told her what had happened in the West, starting with how Priya's memories of life as Delphine eventually led to destruction and some new gear in Brusaria. I then explained the demonic possession the best I could. To her credit, Roshan didn't interrupt. I bit the inside of my cheek between phrases when I followed all that with how Dicini bolted, Liatra in tow, and had probably reached the third way portal by then. At this, she frowned, then nodded. Her forehead wrinkled.
Is that all?
Isn't it enough?
I'm merely asking if you're finished, noob.
There she was. I grinned. The way portals we captured are just the tip of the iceberg. It turns out enemy forces have taken Brumhill. Roshan's frown returned, and I assumed it involved the memory of watching Priya and me have our throats slit open in the Brumhill Inn by the governor's men when they came for Roshan, more than the presence of forces to the south. Either way, her expression righted itself as I continued. Since we've upgraded to a township, we can capture towns held by my sworn enemies.
Sworn?
The king declared me an enemy to the crown, so I reciprocated. Since his men captured Brumhill under the elves' noses, I can take it from them and claim it as part of my...
Are you building a kingdom, Gemini?
Not exactly. I waved it off. I came to ask you to come with me to Brumhill. Roshan took a step back.
I cannot go to Brumhill. I must tend my...
She raised a finger.
Ah, I wondered why you brought Charney. His level is too low for combat. Liatra is gone, so you came to ask me to heal your party.
I raised both hands and shrugged.
A goblin in charge of my chapel. You know the sentiments about beasts deriving from the attacks of long ago have become muted since we retasked the academy and welcomed all races, but most of these people have never seen a goblin.
She tapped a finger on her chin.
I know. Come, we can solve for this now.
Wait, you mean you're coming with me? No argument? Roshan turned, planted a kiss on my cheek, then chuckled as she drew away.
I can't very well leave you on your own without a proper healer. Zara must be informed, and if the path to her leads through Brumhill, then I'm serving a second purpose.
What's that?
To stop those swine from moving on Warrington. Symbiosis. Certainly this has occurred to you.
It had, but I was impressed how quickly she'd come to the conclusion. I nodded.
Yes, of course it has.
Roshan nodded.
If there's a threat to my students and parishioners, then we shall shine the goddess's holy light upon its darkness and burn it out of this world.
Back when Dicini, Priya, and I sought buffs for our trip to Grey Cutter Downs, where we planned to take out the pirate and bandit leader Blackbard, we'd come across a pretty 30-something woman with shoulder-length hair who sold food buffs from a wide stoop with a platform erected in front. Now as I approached that same stand, I saw the same woman. Again, fruit wraps lined her table, but a quick scan revealed her skills had increased. The items ranged from the low-level peach wraps we'd used to much higher-level foodstuffs. Luli Graples waved when she saw us coming.
Well, hi, Roshan. Bring me some customers, did ya?
Roshan nodded.
Possibly, but I was hoping to ask for a favor.
Luli cocked an eyebrow.
What could the resident druid of the light possibly need from me?
Roshan swung a hand toward the goblin.
Meet Charney.
Luli threw a two-fingered salute.
Hiya, Charney.
Yeah, hi. Charney dipped his gaze toward the ground, and I wondered if it wasn't because of the way his eyes seemed to gravitate toward Luli's significant chest. Roshan wouldn't have approved. The Eastern Druid continued now that introductions were out of the way.
I have business with the Chanois. The king's men have taken Brumhill and must be eradicated like the vermin they are. Charney will be taking my place for a while. I was hoping...
Lula thrust a finger my way.
Wait, you're him?
She winked her eyes in succession.
You are him.
She fanned herself, then did a double take.
But don't I know you from somewhere?
I came through a couple months ago and bought some of your food. I returned your mother's betrothal dress. Luli reached out with both hands, then squeezed mine.
You must think I'm a real dolt. How could I forget such a thing? You were with the pretty blonde and the Mashon woman.
I nodded.
Well, Rashan, I'm still tickled to have that dress back. Anything you need, name it. I know how connected you are around town.
Luli's gaze gravitated toward Charney a second time.
You want me to smooth the path? Make sure people are ready for a goblin shepherd.
Charney grunted. Temporary shepherd.
You've got it. I'll start spreading the word today. And tell you what.
She turned, ascended the steps, then rushed into the house. A few beats later, she returned with a small bag in her hand.
For your team, the buffs should buy you a little advantage. And don't even think about trying to pay me.
Rashan took the bag.
Thank you, Luli. You are very kind.
Luli raised her shoulders, then tilted her whole body to one side before tossing a hand.
Who? Little old me? Nah, just doing my part. Time we taught that king a lesson, and something tells me you're just the folks to do it.
I hoped she was right. 17. When we entered the chapel through the front entrance, my magic bag smacked against my side, reminding me of its extra contents. I come bearing gifts. I focused on the inventory pane in my interface until the item I sought appeared in my hand. Roshan eyed the silken item, then reached out and waited for me to place it in her hands, as if she might damage it by snatching it away. She winked both eyes in succession. Realizing I hadn't analyzed it, I checked its attributes.
Waist wrap of the Druid. This rare armor is fashioned by using the finest silk. Type, armor. Slot, waist. Quality, very rare. Durability, 100 of 100. Plus 30 spell penetration. Plus 35 light spells. It's wonderful, Gemini.
She brushed my face with her hand.
How did you fashion it of silk? Have your upgrades provided new resources?
I shook my head. Timpy Gnarling traded a few bolts recently with one of our partners. But don't worry, the belt took up little since we have an elf of high weaving skill running the tailor's shop.
Never devalue a gift, even if it is of little cost to you.
She paused, then muttered,
Noob.
I chuckled. Mind if I analyze you?
Trifle not with social conventions with me, Gemini Fowler, but I appreciate the consideration. Roshan, level 36 Druid of the Light. Strength, 6. Dexterity, 4. Intelligence, 59. Wisdom, 36. Constitution, 30. Charisma, 14.
I searched for a message at the bottom of the system's output but didn't see it, so I voiced the thought aloud. You've gained a bunch of levels, but I'm not getting an option to spend your attribute points.
Because they've been spent. Master Miswell During is a trainer. He teaches the first-year students fundamentals of magic.
Maybe I should audit that when I level up my lower-level classes.
It certainly couldn't hurt.
I gathered my party in a semicircle near the altar. Okay, so Brumhill is a couple days' ride to the south. If we... A chat box popped up on one side of my screen. I raised my finger, then turned from my group.
Clan chat. Private. Giles.
Gemini, I wonder if I could trouble you.
Gemini.
What's going on? Bad tidings at Greycutter Downs. The scouts were spotted, and soldiers we hadn't seen in the hills swarmed and captured them. They want a ransom. We don't negotiate with terrorists. I don't understand. Never mind. Do you have a plan? I can't spare people,
Without Destiny and Liatra, you can't either.
But if you're in Brumhill, we have a contingent of troops protecting the academy. I could send them to the coast to deal with Greycutter. Troops? What, are they hiding? I haven't seen them.
It's midday. They're in the daily briefing.
The Magister had a small barracks constructed on the backside of the main building.
Oh, that makes sense. But I don't want to leave Warrington unguarded. I'm sure the Academy forces could put up a fight, but I'd as soon not put them in that position. I wheeled back around and scanned my party. Roshan was the lowest level at 36, but I'd seen before, when she'd been in the same position as we entered the Plague Barrens,
how quickly she caught up.
Although we'd been in an instance where certain mechanics had been at play, I'd never noticed an XP penalty where higher levels sucked up the dominant percentage in Enora.
Gemini.
I guess we're going to Greycutter after all. The Brumhill invaders haven't been there long. You have spies in Trowsby, right?
Yes.
And they never spotted this lower-level contingent that took Brumhill in the city.
No sign of them at all. They would have notified us. It actually makes sense. Since we took the way portals, the king's soldiers can't reach Trowsby. So, these Brumhill fuckers aren't fresh from Brusaria.
They've been in the east a while.
Maybe at an abandoned outpost we don't know about. Maybe they need supplies. They're probably sucking up the town's resources, siphoning breeders' armor and gold before they try to push north. They'll want to hold the town,
so they have to establish control.
I think it'll be a while before they move on us.
If we leave your troops here, and the Academy protectors can reinforce them,
even if the Brumhill people move faster than we think, I'm sure they can hold things down.
Yes, they could hold Warrington for a short time if the men at Brumhill come north.
But you wanted to get to Zara, Shenhua. No doubt she'll expect you to rush to her. Assuming she doesn't already know about Priya, sure. But Zara isn't going anywhere. Did the prisoner at Greycutter give you an idea about head count?
His best guess was 40 in all.
Then we'll just have to get creative.
We'll head to Greycutter.
Good luck with your siege.
My brother and our people will be thrilled you've chosen to aid our brethren Gemini.
I figured I owe it to them. Be safe, Prince Renard. My team crept closer once they knew I was out of my interface. Although they wore expectant expressions, no one spoke, like they were letting me absorb what had just happened. Maybe they'd read something on my face. The occupiers at Greycutter have captured the elves. Amelia's expression morphed from curious to concerned.
Casualties?
None that I know of.
Enemy numbers?
40 or so.
Levels?
I didn't ask, since they were members of the renegades who'd taken to pillaging the countryside, and most of the governor's troops were level 40 and below. I assume they're in our range. She drummed her fingers on one hip.
Logical. And Prince Giles can't spare people, I'm guessing.
Right. So if no one objects, we're going to Greycutter.
Roshan's eyes flicked back and forth in the way that showed she read her interface.
By my map, that's about half a day's travel.
I nodded.
That's about right.
Priya, Desini, and I did it on foot, and it took a couple days. Aside from a pair of Blackbard's bandits, we didn't run into many threats along the way. A bear? Oh, and we hunted a deer herd. Roshan leaned on the altar.
What about Brumhill?
We think Warrington is safe for now. The elves here can hold the enemy off if they move north from Brumhill ahead of schedule,
and hopefully we'll have returned by then.
I brought up my own map, then zoomed in on the port of Greycutter Downs. If we managed to free the elves and purge the renegades, we could follow the coast down toward the Dark Wood, then cut west across a split I found between two forests.
I voiced my ideas.
Maybe when we get to Greycutter, we can check in with Jor and Renard to get an update. If they haven't made their move, we'll head south along the coast, then cut over to Brumhill. Roshan gave one of her patented downward jerks of her head.
These evil men will regret their trespasses. I vote to support our elven allies.
Machini flipped a bladed boomerang in one hand.
Agreed.
I didn't need to ask Amelia, so I turned my attention at Tsumi, then raised an eyebrow since it seemed to be her go-to expression.
She chuckled.
Hey, Shenhua, I'm easy. This immortality thing changes my whole outlook. I just want to level up and learn a song or two.
We can arrange that.
I shot Pulu a message as we made our way back to the aptly named reception room
so he'd have time to gather our mounts. He stood there when the portal opened, then sent them through one at a time. Thunder would have proven too big for the doors, but I'd summon him on the edge of town.
The party waited while I stepped through the portal to speak to my foreman. Any word on the cavalry we encountered out on the plains? Pulo's jaw muscles swelled, then relaxed.
It's the darndest thing, Gemini. The second assassins have scouted the countryside for miles. No sign of them.
They sent a pair further south to see if they'd moved toward Tralsby, but I've received no ill tidings.
And the scouts are in touch?
Like clockwork.
I'd considered asking if a couple of the assassins would travel with us to Greycutter, but until we gauged the Tralsby force's intentions, I wanted my elven allies at the township to bolster our defenses. I thought about Dicini and Liatra in a fitful moment, how their absence affected our defenses and the party preparing to move into Greycutter without a tank. An overpowering inclination to message them and ask what they were thinking led me to open my Interface's Clan Chat sub-tab. But reason won the day. If Dicini'd chosen to go without forewarning despite my explanations about why seeking out Priya was a bad idea, her mind was set. Nothing I said would change it, and it was more likely to stir up conflict. I knew myself well enough to know that. My frustration could lead to my spewing words I'd later regret, so I resisted and closed out my clan chat. No sooner had the interface faded than a new window with thick golden framing popped up right in the middle of my field of vision, indicating an important message.
You have learned a new skill. Anomalous NPC alert. Unique.
NPCs possessing alien code will flash red, then be consumed by a subtle aura. Type, skill, passive, duration, permanent, cost, not applicable.
The moment I'd read the last word, the message was replaced by another in the same pane.
You have been added to a clan chat. Gemini.
Hey, you there, Caitlin?
GM, Greta. Hello, Gemini, this is Greta. Caitlin is currently away from the office, but she has made me aware of your situation. I see the AI has just processed and released the NPC alert skill and opened this channel for you. Is your query regarding that?
Nope, just testing.
Excellent. Test successful. Caitlin asked that I contact her if you required her assistance any time, day or night. We'll be monitoring this channel around the clock as we scale up for release, so don't hesitate to reach out.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Although I'd expected a more direct line to Caitlin, I could appreciate why she'd selected a clan chat. If delayed when I spotted one of the alien NPCs, she'd want someone on standby to respond quickly. Roshan led us up to the reception gazebo. We retrieved everyone's mounts but mine, then headed for the eastern side of town.